Do you ever feel like your drawings are taking way longer than they should in AutoCAD? When I first started AutoCAD, I didn't know all of the shortcuts and tricks that would save me time. I was doing everything manually, probably the slowest possible way, and I just didn't know if I was doing it right or not. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing 7 of my favorite time-saving tips and tricks that are going to make your drafting faster in AutoCAD. So make sure you stick around to the end to make sure you get the most out of this video. Let's get started. Alright, so one of the easiest and earliest tips that you should learn when working in AutoCAD is that of typing things into the command line, and not just typing in the commands, but memorizing the shortcuts. I've got an entire video on 20 of my favorite shortcuts, but I'll explain a few in today's video. Almost every command within AutoCAD has a shorter shortcut command that you can type into the command line. Something like PL for polyline, that may be the most used command for many doing drafting and drawing within the model space. Hitting enter after typing PL is going to start that polyline command instantly and easily. You don't need to search around in the upper ribbon here to find the polyline button, and while that may not be that difficult to do, when you're searching and changing tabs constantly throughout the day, you're wasting valuable drafting time. It's much quicker to be drafting with 2 hands, one on the mouse and one on the keyboard, typing in these quick commands. Commands like L for line, E for erase, DI for distance, CO for copy, and C for circle. All of these commands are shorter versions of the actual command, and you can learn them by simply starting to type in a command down on the command line, and you'll see which ones will autocomplete or activate the actual command you're looking for. You can also simply go to the Express Tools tab up on the top here and go to the Command Aliases prompt. By clicking this button, it's going to bring up the alias editor within AutoCAD. Now this is somewhat newer in AutoCAD, so if you're on a very legacy software, you're not going to have this command, or if you don't have Express Tools installed, you may be missing it. You also have the ability to track down your acad.pgp file, which is the command alias file, and it's going to be a notepad or Word document, a TXT editable file. So simply open that up and you can change these aliases that way, doing it through the old method. If you're on a legacy version, I also have videos about that on my channel. But in most newer versions, you're going to have the alias editor. In here, you can simply scroll through and find the different command aliases and what they correspond to for the full command. You also have the ability to add and remove aliases within your own software, and this is going to customize your AutoCAD. I do have a tendency to change some of my own. I'll typically change C to copy, and you can do that by clicking the edit button and going to the alias you'd like to change. So I can type in C here, and then I can simply give it a command. I could type in copy and then hit OK, and that's going to change my C command to copy. This is a great way to save time within AutoCAD and is probably the quickest and simplest way to customize AutoCAD to work for you and not against you. If there are certain commands you're using a ton and find yourself wasting time searching for them, either in a hidden ribbon or panel, or typing them out fully, adding that alias or figuring out what the existing alias is a huge time saver. Next up, in the same way, I want to make sure that everybody knows a ton of the shortcuts or quick commands that are going to activate settings for you within AutoCAD. Now, I'm constantly using a few, and some of those are the F3 command. So if you tap F3, you can see it turned my OSNAP or object snapping off. If you tap it again, it's going to turn it on. In that same way, tapping F2 is going to open up your command line history if you need to check something like a distance or measurement or area you picked up earlier, or to see which command you used last just in case you need to undo something. So tapping F2 is going to open and close that command line, and F3 is going to turn on object snaps. If you don't know what those are, that's when you're drawing. So I'm going to type in PL here and start drawing. You can see this little green box that is snapping to the vertex or midpoints of lines and objects. By tapping F3, it's going to turn that off. Sometimes you need to move or zoom in and out for that to fully take effect, but this is helpful if you'd like to freehand draw something without accidentally snapping to an object. But simply typing or tapping F3 is going to turn that back on, as you can see I have here, and it allows you to accurately connect and close polylines and polygons within the software. Now, similar to F3, if we're moving along here, is the F8 command. That's going to activate and deactivate ortho, which basically snaps your lines to a horizontal or a vertical line, forcing you to draw at 90-degree angles. This is super helpful for those drawing parts like these, as well as floor plans, since 99% of the time you're going to want your walls and corners to be at 90-degree angles. So if I type in polyline now and hit enter, now that I've tapped F8, it's going to snap to the horizontal or vertical. There are no other options, so I am only drawing perpendicular 90-degree lines. Now this, like I mentioned, is a huge time saver, because with that and combined with dynamic input, which is this button down here at the bottom, you can now simply type in measurements. So I've clicked, I can now type in how long this line is. Let's say it's 6 inches. I can move my mouse down and I can say this one's 8 inches, 8, and enter. And over here we're going 2 inches. And now up 6 and over 4. And then type C for close. So you can see I've drawn this L shape here, all at 90-degree angles with just a few quick type commands, and it's all locked to that 90-degree angle. So tapping F8 is going to turn ortho on and off. Again, that can also be clicked on and off in the bottom kind of status bar here, where most of these commands can be activated by clicking as well. But as I mentioned, if you've got one hand on the mouse and one on the keyboard, this is just a simple natural reaction and becomes second nature as you use the software longer and longer. Similarly, F10 is going to turn your polar tracking on. So if we type in PL now, you can see that it's snapping to 45-degree angles, which is super useful in a lot of cases, since you may or may not be using 45s in your design. You can tap F10 again to turn that off, so now I can just simply draw whatever angle I'd like. And if you want, you can go down to this polar tracking icon down here and hit the little fly out triangle and choose a different set of angles. So if your design is working with 15 and 30-degree angles, or 23, 45, 68, you can change what these settings are, and it's going to let you snap to those automatically as you draw, preventing any oddball or weird angles that you may not be set up for depending on the type of product you're designing and drafting. Now, as I mentioned before, I've also got an entire video on a bunch of shortcuts that are worth memorizing in AutoCAD. Things like Control plus the number 1 is going to bring up your Properties menu, and Control plus the number 2 is going to bring up your Design Center, which is up on my other screen here. Both of these are super useful and saving a ton of time over the long term. But if we're moving on to the next set of tips, that is to create blocks of anything in AutoCAD that you're drawing or reusing more than 1 or 2 times. Now, for our example product here, you can see we've got a squared flange. Here, I'll grab an image of what this probably would look like in real life. So you can see here, we've got a flange that can be screwed or bolted to something, and a pipe can slide onto it or attach to it. Now, these are pretty common and you may be using them for a variety of reasons, but say you need to lay them out on a floor plan and you need to place this bracket here multiple times within your floor plan drawing. So I'm just going to select my line work and type in CO for copy and hit enter, and we're just going to make a copy of it up here to use as an example. So perhaps you're using this a ton of times within your floor plan and your project. This is just a group of individual items and line work within AutoCAD. But by typing in the word block, you can create a quick block without anything special. If you'd like to get into dynamic blocks with customization, options, scaling, all of that, I have videos on that on my channel. and I highly recommend learning that. You can also learn about blocks, title blocks, templates, and more by taking my AutoCAD Fundamentals and Workflows course. I've got the link for it up above and down below, and just recently I added a ton of new features and bonuses to the course. You can now get access to my AutoCAD Kickstart course, which is for complete beginners, everything from opening up your first drawing to creating your first layout. And then in the Fundamentals and Workflows course, we go through creating custom templates and title blocks, importing layer lists from standards, as well as XREFs, annotations, scaling, layouts, exporting drawings, creating PDFs, and everything in between. I've also included a ton of templates and title blocks from my other packages in the new course, and a ton more. You can even learn a bunch about sheet sets within AutoCAD, which are like an index sheet that saves you a ton of time locating your files and batch plotting. All of that is included at a discounted price using that link down below. Now back to creating our block. So we've selected our line objects, we've typed in the word block and hit enter, and now we've got the block dialog box here. To create a simple block, all you need is a name, so we will call this square flange. You need a base point. By default, it's going to be at 0, 0. You don't want to leave this at base point. You want to choose pick point, and typically you're going to choose the center of your block or where you'd like it aligned when inserting it. For the most cases, you're going to want to choose roughly the center or a corner point that you can then snap to place it. You can see it's picked that point. I want to convert these specific objects here into a block to get started. And then all these other settings you can leave as default. You're going to want to make sure your units are correct. But other than that, we can hit OK. From here, we've now got our block. You can see now when I select it, the entire block is selected, including all of my objects and center marks. Now I have this blue vertex point in the middle that I can simply move around my entire block and nothing gets lost or misplaced. I can also simply copy this easily, CO, and place it wherever I want. I can also, even easier, is type I for insert and check under your current drawing which blocks are in my drawing. I know I've created this square flange. By clicking on it, it lets me place it instantly wherever I'd like, as well as rotate it upon placement. I can hit enter for a 0 rotation just to keep it in the same orientation, but if you're inserting these, say, around the perimeter of a floor plan or slab, you can rotate it on the fly as you insert them, which can be a huge time saver. Now, moving on, the next thing you're going to want to do for every drawing is make sure you have a template set up. Now, as I mentioned, I go over the complete creation of a custom template in my AutoCAD Fundamentals and Workflows course, which I highly recommend you checking out because it's quite time intensive and confusing if you're trying to do this from scratch by yourself. But the gist of it is, once you have a clean blank drawing set up with all of your blocks, your annotation text, your title blocks, scales, and all of that, then you're going to want to do a save as and save it as a .dwt. This is going to allow you to create a new template within your templates drawing, and now when you create a new drawing, you're going to have that option to create from. So when I go into the top left here and create new, your new template is going to show up here, and it's going to have your title blocks, your scales, your text, your layers, your styles, everything already included in it. Now, this is the fastest and easiest way to create a basic AutoCAD standard that then you can share with other users within your team to keep things consistent. Every drawing you create will be based on that template, and it's going to have these same scales, these same layers, the same colors, the same title blocks. This is hugely important for standards and drawing production so that every drawing you produce at least has the same starting point so that it can look similar. It's going to have those same text sizes and fonts, the same title block, the same logos. Everything that you've customized and created and inserted into your template is going to be brought into that new drawing. You no longer need to copy an old drawing to start a new one or insert things from previous projects. Just starting with that template with everything in it is going to be a huge time saver. Next up is another set of commands that you're definitely going to want to memorize, and that is the zooming around and moving within AutoCAD. Now, I'm zooming in and out using my middle mouse wheel. You can also click down your wheel and pan around the drawing. That's great for many users and most of the time, But if you ever get zoomed out into the middle of nowhere, or you want to quickly center up and find all of your objects, tapping Z and hitting enter, and then tapping E and hitting enter is a huge time saver. It's going to instantly fit all of your objects to the screen. It's going to zoom to the extents of your drawing, and this is going to make sure that you don't have anything missing and lost out in the middle of nowhere. If it zooms, extends, and it looks like this, you've got objects down here in the bottom right, and then maybe you've got another object way up in the top right or left. This is going to allow you to find that and figure that out quickly. But say I've got out here now and I don't know where my drawing is, tapping Z, hitting enter, and tapping E and hitting enter is going to bring me right back to where all my objects and design is. Alright, so now we're on to the last tip, and this may be one of the best time savers within AutoCAD that I don't think many people actually use, and I don't understand why. It's one of my favorites, and it's one that I show people and it blows their mind every time. So tool palettes within AutoCAD are pretty common. All of these little windows here are kind of like a tool palette or a palette in general, but tool palettes in particular are a huge time saver because they take common commands or text objects or styles away from the hidden ribbon menus and place them front and center so that you can have all of the most used and common ones for your projects right next to you. And if you're like me and you're using multiple monitors, you can have these palettes off to the side where you can simply just pick and choose what you'd like to bring into the drawing and have things like text or dimensions or blocks automatically inserted on the right layer and scale with just a click of a button. You don't even need to type anything in. So to create a custom tool palette that's going to allow you to quickly add and remove objects for your typical drawings, hold down Control and tap 3. That's going to open up the default tool palettes. You can see I've got a bunch here. This is all the default ones here, but what I'm going to do is right click on these tabs and choose new palette. This is going to create a new palette. You can call it like your architectural, or you could call it typical blocks, whatever you'd like. So you can see I've created my tab here. You can click on it to have your open blank tool palette here. And then you can simply drag and drop objects you'd like to add to your tool palette to keep at quick reach or on your screen at a moment's notice. So if I'd like to add something, so let's say I'd like to add our square flange block to our typical tool palette over here. I simply select it and then just click down on any of the line work, not the vertex. So just click and hold. You can see when I drag it over to my tool palette, it shows up, it pops up to the top here. When I let go, it's going to place it into my tool palette. Now I've got quick access to this block by clicking and placing. Now, if I'd like to do that with text, I can also do that, and it's going to keep those properties from this piece of text. So I like this title view here. I want to click and drag it over to here, and you can customize and rename these things. So if I select it and right click, properties, I can call this title text, and this is my default title text. You can choose things like what layer you'd like it on. You can change, so I'd like it on my text layer, and I'd like the text to be blue, and I'd like to keep my standard text style. So I can hit OK. Now I simply just click on title text. It's going to insert a text object here. I can drag my text window. I can type in example text. Underline that, click outside. It's on the text layer and the color is set to blue. This is the same for almost anything else within AutoCAD. I can drag and drop these commands, these pieces of text, these dimensions. All of this can be added to my tool palette and then customized once it's over here. Simply right clicking on it, going to properties will allow you to change up all of those settings that you'd like. You can also make sure it's using a custom style depending on what you'd like to see when you insert it. And this is reusable. You can export and save these tool palettes. I've got an entire video on this if you check it out on the channel, but I think this is going to be a huge game changer for many users. Creating multiple custom tool palettes depending on the type of project you're working on will save you a ton of time. In particular, I'll typically use it for blocks for the most part and create a kind of block library within each tool palette depending on the type of project I'm working on. Things like architectural blocks and civil blocks I'll have on different tool palettes, as well as my standard text or notes that I would use, and line types even. You can drag a line type. So if you've got hidden property line, center line, all of those, you drag and drop them into here, set those line types and layers, and just clicking them over here is going to place and start line objects or circle objects on the correct layer with the correct color and the correct line type. Alright, so if you got some value and learned a few tricks from this video, I'd love it if you hit that like and subscribe to the channel. Again, if you haven't already, don't forget to check out my AutoCAD Fundamentals and Workflows course. It's discounted up above at those links and down below in the description. It's going to allow you to learn and master AutoCAD faster than you will anywhere else. It carries you from start to finish and gives you a ton of downloadable files and templates to speed up the process. Thanks again for watching and have a good one. Cheers.